So the first question is, why did you start learning Polish?
Actually, it's not the first time I start learning Polish. I love the language. I've been loving the language for many years. And I tried to recall when was the first attempt. The first attempt was maybe 50 years ago.
Okay.
There was a series of books, teach yourself, teach yourself Esperanto, teach yourself. So I still have it here. Teach yourself Polish, which is, of course, it's ridiculous. It's ridiculous. Such a complicated, elaborate language. You can't do like teach yourself how to make an omelet. Of course, it's impossible. But this
Yes.
was the first attempt, maybe 40 to 50 years ago. I can't remember, but many, many years ago. The second attempt was something like more than 30 years ago.
Okay.
And a friend of mine, she was born in Poland. She's older than me. She said, listen, I'm not a teacher, but I'll teach you.
Great, great.
And we didn't have a book. And she decided she'll teach me with proverbs, which is, of course, a ridiculous method for a beginner to learn a language. But with my memory, the only thing I remember from her is I ślepaj kurze trefą się mruga. That's what I remember from a course. We met several times. We drank
Yeah.
nice coffee and we talked about Poland, and that's it. And for years, I was busy with other languages. I've been speaking Russian in the last 35 years because of new immigrants coming from Russia. And actually, I forced myself to speak the language. And I speak Russian fluently. Not because I love the language. It's a beautiful and rich language. Shouldn't anyone understand something else? But I spoke it because I needed it. I needed to speak with the patients. All of them came from Russia. They were non-Zionists from the 90s. They spoke only Russian, and they still speak only Russian and some Hebrew. But I always squinted at the skew to the neighbor, the little neighbor on the west, and said, this is the language I want. And something fascinated, and it has always fascinated me, as I told you once, I think, on our first lesson, that what enchanted me in Polish, that it's a Slavic language with all the complexities of a Slavic language, and the massive influence of the Christianity, of the Catholicism.
Yes. Yes.
And the church entered the language and made it more complicated and more elaborate, as if it was not enough without it.
Yeah.
But I think that there is something else which I don't really know what to say about it, I love the language. And I can't say why. I loved my mother very much. She hated Polish. The moment I wanted to annoy her, I would say, co ty mówisz? And she was appalled. She hated the language. She had no reason to hate it, but she hated it. And there is something, you know, when you really love something, you can't really say why. And it's
Sure,
better you
yeah.
would. So I leave it as an enigma. And I struggle with the language as all students struggle with Polish. And it gives me a lot of joy. And I'm not a fakir, an Indian fakir, sitting on nails. I don't love, it's not my hobby to torture myself. But here I really enjoy it. It's like every time I feel that I managed to climb another little mountain without looking too way up, because there are a lot of mountains and I don't want to get depressed. But it's very joyful. So this is a very complicated answer to a very simple language. It is a simple question, why I started Polish. This is why.
The answer was almost as complicated as the language, but
As the language.
it was a very
Absolutely.
beautiful answer
So
as well.
yeah, okay. So I have a character match with Polish. It's a good start.
Yes, yes, yes.
Yeah.
Now let's talk a little bit about your languages journey.
Yes.
How did it start?
It started, I think, at the age I was able to walk. It's something about 1 year old, let's say a year and a half. I don't remember it, of course. Nobody remembers himself at this age. But my older sister, she's 6 years older than me. She told me that she remembers whenever I heard a new word in Hebrew, of course. I went to the dining room and I made circles around the table, repeating this word out loud, and like incorporating the new word. A crazy child. Thank God nobody thought I was crazy. But this is the first step, the first step in this journey.
Hey, it sounds like you were just happy about learning something new.
Yes, yes, yes. I was really happy. I'm a good learner. I like to. This is something that excites me most. To learn something new. I'm 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 an eternal student, actually. I've always been learning something, except for the no. Even during my military service, I learned something. Yes, now I remember. And both my parents were many language speakers, were polyglot.
Okay.
Yeah, and there's something that has to do with genetics, I think.
Absolutely,
I,
absolutely.
I think because it's kind of something that I don't have such a good memory, except for things in languages. It's not that I can learn by heart a dictionary. It's not the same memory. Because if you learn by heart a dictionary, you don't know a language.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah, yeah, because you need something else. You need to do the connections. And my father was from a Sephardic background. His mother tongue was French, and he spoke, except for Hebrew, he spoke fluently English, French, um, Spanish, Jewish Spanish. It's called Ladino,
Okay,
which
nice.
resembles the ancient Spanish. Arabic, of course. And my mother was born in Vilnius. She spoke Yiddish at home and Hebrew. My grandfather didn't let them speak Russian because it's the language of the Soviets. One shouldn't speak Russian. Exactly like the Lithuanians nowadays. You shouldn't speak Russian there. But nevertheless, they all spoke Russian between among themselves. So she knew some Russian and English and German because she had German neighbors. And so she spoke German. And they were both influencing each other. So my father, who came from a Sephardic background, spoke Yiddish. And my mother, who was Ashkenaz, spoke Ladino, this ancient Spanish. And this mixture was something very unique to our family. And I was exposed to all that. And I actually, as as a child who has good relations with his parents, if he's lucky enough, he kind of falls in love with what they're doing. And actually, I fell in love. And one anecdote, just to express the extent of this bizarrity. When I was a soldier, my father came to pick me up from the base, and we took a friend from the base just to a few kilometers in the car. My father was driving. I was sitting next to him. On the back seat was sitting the other soldier, my friend. Next morning, he came to me and he said, I have to ask you something. What language do you speak at home?
Yeah.
I said, why do you ask? Hebrew, I think. He said, listen, every 4 words, I didn't understand one word. And then I
Nice.
realized that the way we spoke, we took all the tools that we have, all the richness from all the languages, and we mingled it together. So actually, we're speaking in one conversation Hebrew, Arabic, English, Spanish, I don't know what. Yiddish, of course. Ladino, of course. It's such a luscious language like Yiddish. And the rest is history. But
Nice.
I managed to fall in love with this, let's say, practice. My sister, no, she speaks nice Hebrew, fluent English, and that's enough for her. Why bother? She wasn't the, she had other attractions. She was not attracted uh, to this huge field. And the rest is really history because whenever I tangled a new language, I managed to get along with it. And languages that interested me more, uh, I I studied somehow. And there is a difference between a language that you speak and the language that you read. It's of course it's totally different. The practice you need for for reading, for speaking, has to do with something that teachers know and professional students know about languages. The main problem is to retrieve the word. Yeah.
True, true.
To retrieve it from the memory. It is there. When you read it, you see it. I said, I know it. And then it is retrieved. But when you have to retrieve it orally, this is something else. And for this, you need practice. And it has to do with many other things. If we manage to speak about the AI, I
Yeah.
have some things to say about these difficulties.
Let's say them now.
Okay.
Yeah.
I think that a good program on AI can do a lot. Can I dare to say to replace a teacher, a human teacher? I dare to say because I'm a bit doubtful. It can do the hard work. It can give you charts. It can give you exercises. It can examine your exercises. It can even give you feedback. But it can't do anything that a human can and a computer can't. And I'll say it in a bizarre way. A computer can neither love you nor hate you. And speaking a language, learning a language, has to do with, as I see it, with lots of emotion. And I think that it's a bit tricky, but I think that if I were not really in love with languages, the whole attitude was completely different. And it's not being in love with a language itself, but with a language as a mean of communication.
Yeah.
Yeah. I've been studying Japanese for a couple of years. I can't say I speak Japanese. I can manage better or worse, but the moment I can produce a piece of communication in Japanese, you should see the joy of my counterpart, Japanese counterpart, when I'm doing an effort to speak his language. Actually, we can babble, we can speak a bit of with our hands. What I'm not speaking about Nietzsche at in the restaurant. Yeah, I'm speaking about, ordinary things. I'm a tourist in Japan, so what can I speak about? And still, the joy that you make an effort to speak his language, it's not the same joy as if you manage to look like him, to dress like him, to eat nicely with the chopsticks. It's something else. Yeah, languages as a mean of communication is not detached from sensation, from emotions. And computer is fantastic, but it lacks emotions. And this part should always be completed by this fantastic ping pong that you have between a student and a teacher. And we know it, but because something that we do mostly in our is laugh.
Yes, yes.
Yes, but what is it, this laughter? For me, it's part of learning. Because, of course, there are jokes and things, and what are jokes? If not those hidden corners in language that we find our ways to one another. You know, it's such a, you know, such a worn out phrase to say, I don't know why I love him, but he makes me laugh. Yeah, yeah, it's really, it's almost a trash, but it has something. It has something, and this something cannot be accomplished by AI. And I know it because I find myself telling to my patients, listen, you can be assured that an AI will never replace the doctor. It can replace the laboratory. It can replace the imaging, maybe, but it can't replace the eye contact. It can't replace the, how do you say it in English? Grimace. The
Like
faces.
the mimics,
The mimics, right, thank you. The mimics, which is very important.
the body language, things like
The
this.
body language is extremely important. It's part of a language.
Of course, yes.
Yeah.
Some believe it's the most important part of the language.
Yes, I don't know, but when one of my markers, my benchmarks, is a phone call. Whenever I can pick up a phone and I speak the language, and then you have only the voice, and I understand and I can do this back and forth, this ping pong between the speaker and the hearer, I can say, okay, I mean, it's a benchmark. I managed to do this. I remember twice that it happened to me. Years ago, I was a resident in the hospital after the early 90s, where the many new immigrants from Russia came, and there was a patient, and he was, you know already the word nudnik. He was a nuisance. He was something unbelievable. And of course, he didn't speak a word of Hebrew. And it was during the first years I started to find my way in Russian. And I found myself in the middle of the word shouting at him in Russian. It was very helpful. He became quiet and he went to his room. And then I looked at myself inside and I said, wow, you shouted at somebody in Russian. It has to do with lots of emotions, and you managed to do it. This is one benchmark. The other, I think I think I told you this little story about Japan last lesson that I was going with my boyfriend to a wasabi a field somewhere in the middle of nowhere, and a taxi driver brought us, and he gave me his card and said, call me back. Of course, in Japanese, he didn't know that any other language exists in the world. He has never left his, let alone Japan. There's this little area when he lived. And he said, call me and I'll come to pick you up. Of course, in Japanese, which I understood because he gave me the card and there was a number. And we had the tour and I went out and I said, goodness, now I have to pick up the phone, call him and say something in Japanese. He can't see my mimics, nothing, just my voice. And I managed to do it. And I said, I spoke on the phone in Japanese. Okay. It doesn't say anything about the other. It says about something that you achieve and a feedback that you can get from, from the communication level of the language, which is, of course, that's what our language is for, to communicate. And this is something you need guts. You need guts to open your mouth. And no matter in what language, I was not afraid to open my mouth. Listen, it's not my ears will not ache. It's
It's
I speak a language I don't know, presuming that the other, so it's his problem.
exactly,
I'm doing my best.
exactly. That's that.
Exactly. And this is something that students, it's a big pitfall, because if they are so afraid to say something wrong or not to be able to retrieve something that will at least resemble what they want to say, it's a pitfall. It's something that you have to overcome if you want to study another language.
How did you learn to praise yourself for these achievements? Because one of the biggest problems I see is that, my students, I believe they have learned a lot, but they just very often they can't see it. Yeah. And you a few times you set like a benchmark for this, benchmark for that.
Yeah.
And that's very important to it's like it's a skill which really helps you to learn more, because when you praise yourself for what you have already learned, you become more motivated to learn even more.
Yes, it's a feedback.
Yeah, but how did you manage to, to give yourself these benchmarks? Yeah.
Ah, I think it has to do with attention. I very often, there are very nasty holes in memory. Don't know if nasty.
I know.
And there's a whole part of a dictionary that knows how to fall in those holes. And it's amazing with all the good memory that I have for new words. There are, goodness gracious, words that I have to look, even in languages that I'm fluent in, not in Hebrew. Okay. I think that the language that you learned how to count numbers in and this is the language you probably dream in. You don't find, because you don't have these problems of what's the meaning of this and that, because this is something else. But all others, except when you're lucky enough to switch from one language to another between the age of 11 to 14, this is the age when it closes Yes, it is neurologically.
Yeah. No, but
Whenever you
close
learn
and don't.
a language after the age of 14, give or take, you wouldn't acquire the normal, the genuine accent. So these holes always attract me. I can give you an example. How do you say a hanger? Wieszak?
Yes, tak, wiesz.
Okay.
Perfect,
Okay.
perfect.
This word fell in the hole. God knows why. Why? It's such
Yeah.
a naive, simple word. I managed to do the dishwasher and the washing machine and the dryer and everything that is small and big and one shelf and a bookshelf, you name it. And this little, and I managed to pick them by the ear, and not to try to push them hard, but to try uh, to say something about them, to try to put them in a context. And usually it's successful, but not always. There are words that keep falling in those nasty holes, and no matter what you do.
So rather than forcing them, you approach them gently. We can say.
Gently,
Yeah.
with friendship.
Yeah, exactly.
Yes,
Exactly.
I'm trying to become friendlier with the least miserable Viesha. I don't know why. But
Yeah, very interesting. Very interesting. Yeah. Um, so you mentioned your patients a few times, and maybe you can tell me something about your job, about your profession.
about my profession,
Yes.
it's not easy and it's complicated like every other thing.
Of course, of course.
Well, professionally, I'm an eye doctor, and I've practicing medicine. It has been 43 years already. It's a lot of time.
Great.
Uh, I'll tell you an anecdote that to see that how things are really connected. When I was a student, I was working as a nurse in a hospital. It was a hospital, a private hospital, that were accepting patients from abroad. So, like medical tourism. And the nurses who were older than me, years after, remembered only one thing about me. Maybe not only because it was probably very bizarre, but they remembered one thing. They was remembering me standing in a room. Those days, you could still find patients' room with 6 beds, something that you don't find in modern hospitals now. And it wasn't bad. That was the way. It was a big room with 6 beds, and at least part of them were tourists. And they say that they found me standing in the middle of the room, pouring tea and biscuits, and asking each patient in his own language what he wants.
Mhm.
You asked me if knowing languages is of any importance, or
Yeah.
it's not of any importance. It is part of it. It's part of the communication. It's part of getting to somebody else with what you can give. What I can give, if you're very good looking and you smile, you're good looking, you're giving somebody, and you presume it's a pleasure to look at your nice face. If you can give him a better way to communicate, it's maybe not very nice to say, especially not about patience. It's kind of a flirt. It's kind of a flirt. You flirt with him, of course, not sexually, but you're putting something else into the communication. And I think it's very unethical and even ugly that somebody say something good about himself professionally, but I think I'm a good doctor not because I know something about ophthalmology that my colleagues don't know. Absolutely not. They probably know a lot of more than me because I had conventions and I don't read so much, but I know what to do with this person who is in front of me. Jacques Lacan, the French psychoanalyst, he was a doctor. The French people, the Parisians, say he was a lousy doctor, but I don't know. He said something extremely important. For a doctor, there's only one thing you have to know about the patient the moment he enters from the door. Yes, only one thing. If the patient wants to be healthy or sick. If you know what he wants, the moment he enters, before he opens his mouth, you did it right. It has nothing to do with medicine. It has to do with all these things, and it has to do with love as too much, but it has to do with a very good, fine-tuned communication, which is the most important and the most challenging part of being a doctor. Because you can look at this encounter that you sit on this chair for years and years, and every couple of minutes somebody else, a stranger, comes sitting in front of you. You don't know him. Actually, you don't care about him because he's a stranger, and he's telling you something that you heard millions of times before. What's to like? What's to like? If not the challenge of overcoming this gap with communicating and making it a good encounter. This is the secret. And speaking languages and knowing languages is not different, coming to think of it.
Of course, that's what I was thinking about.
Yeah, of course. It's the hammer and the screwdriver and the drill. and the saw. It's like asking a carpenter, do you like your saw? Of course he likes his saw. And this is the saw and the hammer and the nail. This is the tools. Okay. So this is my profession. This is my profession. I still like it after so many years. It's a very time consuming and very tiring, but I still love it. And making my description as complicated as possible. As I said, that there are two levels or two paths of language, speaking and reading, and that in the time I've left with, I translate from French literature. And this is the other half of the joy. So usually if one can accomplish 60 or 70% of what he's doing in life, he should be really a happy person. I don't count in percentage. And living here in Israel, we need much improvements to get back what we lost in these couple of years. But in my personal life, except for, of course, in my family, which is amazing, I think that this oral communications with the patients and the textual communication that I have with texts, with literature, is something which maybe touches the summit. Maybe.
Maybe. No, very, very interesting. Is there a language you wanted to learn but you didn't learn?
Yes. It was, I wanted to learn Persian.
Persian.
Yes,
Persian is not Arabic, right?
absolutely not.
It's a totally different language, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah,
It,
yeah, yeah.
it's a Indo-European language. It has all the characteristics of Indo-Europeans. It doesn't matter if it's the Slavic, the Germanic, the Latin. They all share the same principle of relation between a predicate and object. The order of words in the syntax is not, and uh, the system of verbs, which is absolutely has no relation with Arabic. I'm sorry to say it is very unpolitically correct. They were unlucky enough to be exposed to the Muslims for many, many years, actually many centuries.
Centuries, yeah.
Many centuries. And they have a very strange dictionary. Very strange.
So in today's, sorry for interrupting, but in today's Iran, there is only one language, like this Persian language, or?
Yes.
Okay.
There's one Persian language. I'm not speaking about the ancient Persian, but the modern Persian that we know and we speak, it has been well established for generations. It's not something new like Hebrew, which is new. It's been revived in the last 100 years. And it's a very strange dictionary because they have very few verbs. Unbelievable.
And why is that?
Just think of how many verbs you have for motion.
In
Oh, but
Polish?
you laugh because I knew
Yeah.
you laugh because that's why I gave this. It's you name it. You came from, you're going from, you're going along, you're not going along, you return, you leave where you came from. Everything. Yeah, it's fantastic. It's such elaborate. And in Persian, no, very few, and they use all kinds of tricks. I won't get into the Persian grammar, but the dictionary is full of Arabic words. So it has a system, a grammatical system of a Western. It's the most Eastern Indo-European language. And it sounds more like people who speak Arabic can recognize words that are mispronounced, but it's not Arabic at all. I was very unfortunate. I tried to communicate with a very good teacher. She didn't have time for me. And I got in touch with another one. She was a crazy woman. So
Iranian, Persian.
Persian, yes, crazy.
Okay.
So I withdrew, and I went to a course which was not good. It's you can't find them. So many Persian Jews in Israel, and you hear it in the street. And I have patients who are Persians, and it's very hard, or actually almost impossible, to find a good system. If I could find a good Janusz Rudzki in Persian, it would be
Thank you.
nice, but I don't. So I stick with Polish.
There must be, there must be.
There must be, I don't know. They're
There
very
must
nice
be.
people, very nice people, the Persians. They're miserable as we are. The politicians are bad, but they're extremely nice, extremely, and they like to be free, and they like to be modern, and they're so interested in modern life and in modern and in Western culture, and they have their fantastic culture themselves, and they're miserable because they're in the Middle East, as we're Israelis are miserable because we're in the Middle East, and we hate them. We shouldn't have, and the whole world hates us with some good reasons. But Persian was, I think, it's going to stay as a dream because you need to keep yourself some dreams, not accomplished, and and uh, and Polish keeps me busy and happy,
Yeah,
and the books are waiting for me. No,
Polish is keeping busy everyone.
yeah, yeah.
Everyone.
I know only one language that I think, from my experience, and I think that somebody will hear our talk will will be able to understand that I have some experience with languages. The Japanese is something else. First of all, it's a paradise for linguists because the syntax is so raw, is so geometrical. But the big frustration is that even if you can speak, you can't read.
Even if you speak, you can't read.
Even if you speak, you can't read. And I know many Israelis who spent years in Japan, and I know even one professor for biblical sciences. She's a very high position in a very good university in Kyoto. She has been living there for, I think, 20 or 25 years. And she's doing her biblical research there, and she's teaching there. She speaks fluent Japanese, but she can't read. It sounds ridiculous. It sounds ridiculous because it's something else. For reading, you have to know, give or take, something like 80,000 combinations of those little Chinese picture,
Wow.
what we call in Japanese kanji. And this, if you don't practice endlessly, you lose it. And this is very frustrating. Very.
This is on the other hand good news for people who learn Polish, right?
Yes. They should try only 3 months Japanese, and then they'll come back as happy as a turkey.
Yes, that's definitely good to know. Finally we have something.
Yes.
We
Yes.
have something, and we will build upon it.
Yeah.
Can you please give some advice to people who learn Polish?
Who's the list? I'll give
Or any languages.
I'll give 2 advices. One for any language and one for Polish. For any language, be patient. Be patient. Don't try to rush because your brain will betray you. You can't rush. Because students of foreign languages are almost always are adults. And the capabilities of a child in learning new language are lost. We learn new languages like adults with all the limitations, but we are more intelligent, we have more knowledge about life, and we should take advantage of this. This is in any language. Be patient. It will come. And if you don't come, try to find yourself to get relations with the things that don't come easily. You know, the nasty holes in the memory, all the things drop there. And for Polish, the first challenge, even though I think, I'll say modestly that I'm not the best example for this challenge, is pronunciation. And if you have problems pronouncing, take the liberty, stand in front of the mirror, look at yourself pronouncing, and pronounce it out loud. This is a skill that, because there's something artificial. When you move to a country and you have the stimuli all the time, you hear it, you incorporate the unless you're really ungifted, at last you'll manage to pronounce it correctly. But if your encounter is only twice a week with a teacher for 1 hour, and the rest you're trapped in your own language, challenge it and try to read even text that you don't understand a word of it. It's very good for pronunciation, for the fluency, and for untangling the difficulties of phonology. And this is very, very helpful. Take a piece of a newspaper. It doesn't matter if maybe you understand only few prepositions. Read it out loud. It's extremely helpful. In any language, and in Polish, that the pronunciation is a bit of a challenge. I think it's something that every student shouldn't be afraid of. Just the moment I started studying Polish, really studying with you 3 months ago, I started reading. I'm reading short stories of Olga Tokarczuk. Wyspa, an island. I understand 20%. It's not bad.
It's not, of course.
But I am getting relation with the text, with pronouncing, with the relations of the words in the sentence. This is nothing, nothing comes naturally. You have to bring it into yourself. And if you do, it's reading text that I don't understand. It's exactly like answering, why are you speaking to a baby? He doesn't understand 80% of of the words you're saying, and you still are talking to him.
Absolutely, the perfect example. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. I have many questions, but I hope we meet again and
Yes. Call
continue.
this one, call the record one, part 1.
Yes.
So we'll have
yes,
to do the part 2.
Of course, yes. Just extremely, extremely interesting. And thank you
Thank you.
very much for your time.
Thank you very much.
And yeah, see you in part 2.
In part 2.
Yes.
Yes.
Thank you. Dziękuję bardzo.
Yeah. Dziękuję. Do
Dziękuję.
zobaczenia.
Do zobaczenia.